Hello, the Otaku Critic here, and welcome to my first installment of Manga Corner. This will be running a little differently than my anime reviews. This will be my initial impressions of a manga series based on about the first volume or so, versus me just getting angry at the anime that I'm watching. I'll just be giving my initial impressions of a series, and if I think it's going anywhere, or if I'm about ready to drop it at the first volume. There won't be much in the way of spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that either. So without further waiting, my first review will be Alice on Deadlines. Okay, I should probably start out saying that I have nothing against fan service, if done well and drawn well. I own a fair amount of the Negima manga series. So when I picked this manga up, I figured I was in for some silly fan service geared shenanigans. In retrospect, I really should have looked through it further because this manga fails on every level. So our basic storyline is Lapin, a Shinigami who happens to be a huge pervert, is ordered to go to the human realm. Now, for some reason, Shinigamis aren't allowed to go to the human realm in their current forms and have to use soulless vessels. Why? It's the law, and we'd have no story otherwise. So, moving on. So, the vessel that Lapin is given by his boss is a skeleton. And then we have this girl who is from a nearby school who happens upon this skeleton and somehow swaps places with it. I'm not entirely sure how this swaps occurs, but again, we would have no story otherwise. So now, Alice is in the body of the skeleton, and Lapin is in Alice's body. And Lapin apparently loses his paperwork somehow along the way, and now they're stuck that way for a year. Oh yeah, and he was sent there to reap some human souls that refuse to die and turned into killing monsters. Trust me, it sounds cooler than it actually is. I'm just going to come right out and say this. The artwork in this is really poor. The anatomy is constantly off, the characters are all extremely stiff, and the artist has a hard time drawing hands. The hands are either always off panel, or most of the time the characters have their hands balled into fists and the fingers aren't really defined. This is really bad for a fan service geared manga. I mean, the fan service itself isn't appealing at all or well drawn in any instance. Not to mention the skeleton's design alone makes me want to gouge my eyes out. That thing is just an eyesore. I guess you could say the monsters are the best drawn things in this manga, but that's not really saying much. And there aren't that many backgrounds either. Most of the time there's no background at all, or if there is, it seems really flat or the perspective is kind of wonky. And I kind of feel like I'm picking on this at this point, but it's just that bad. I can't find any redeeming qualities in the artwork. How about the story? It's awful too. Even if it had great art for the fan service, all the fan service gags are lame. I mean, it's either a couple panty shots or Lapin just groping himself. Or Alice. Whatever. And this guy has no redeeming qualities at all. I mean, I know he's supposed to be a huge pervert, but I mean, he's a complete jerk on top of that. He actually buries Alice in a hole at one point to run off and go do pervy things. And Alice herself is nothing more than a cardboard cutout. I mean, she gets upset and flustered. That's it. As if that wasn't bad enough, towards the end it tries to become a slice of life manga. I mean, there is nothing redeeming about this manga that I can see. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. The artwork is poor, the fan service is either non-existent or absolute crap. The characters have no personality at all. Alice on Deadlines is to be avoided. This is the Otaku Critic, signing off.